Now they're trying to survive, and they won't be successful unless they make a deal. Oh, if they don't make a deal, they won't be successful. It'll go very quickly and methodically. Believe me, it'll be very easy. But we have so many alternatives. It's amazing.
The U.S. is prepared to respond with force if Tehran fails to make a deal. The strategy remains economic pressure with a military option. But the ceasefire still holds, at least for now. Welcome to the Big Money Show, everyone. I'm Jackie DeAngelis, along with my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Dagan McDowell, Brian Brunberg, and with us for the hour, Fox Business contributor Jonathan Hoenig in his pink. Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great to be with you.
We coordinated.
Despite Iran's attacks on vessels in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, the Pentagon says the fragile ceasefire is still in place. Brent crude now pulling back to around $111 a barrel. That's Brent, West Texas much lower, after closing at its highest level in nearly 4 years following the strikes. Markets are rising on hopes that the U.S. and Iran can avoid a full-scale war. The president, he's playing it cool.
Our country is doing great. We're breaking records in every way, and I know it's too bad, but I had to do it. We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. You can't let a bunch of lunatics have a nuclear weapon, or the world would be in trouble. The world would be in trouble.
And the president is holding pretty steadfast to what he promised the American people and also the international community about a nuclear weapon. And right now it seems like he's holding all the cards because he's putting the pressure on economically. He's got the military assets in place in case he needs them. But overnight, there was some real wild volatility. You had the Iranians with their missile launch over on the UAE. You had oil prices go to $114 a barrel. They're a little bit lower again today. And that WTI is getting back to that $100 mark, and markets are rallying because there's actually been some pretty good earnings and economic data. So as long as the president sees that the markets are taking this in stride, I imagine he will too.
Well, Jackie, I mean, the American military has been amazing, truly extraordinary. And to the president's point, I mean, they have absolutely decimated Iran's ability to mount any type of a fight. But I wonder if the U.S. truly does have all the cards like President Trump claims, why is Iran continuing to be so belligerent? Why are they so provocative? Why are they firing armaments? Why are they still attacking other Gulf and Arab states? So my fear is that the ceasefire has actually emboldened Iran. And my sense is before it's all said and done, we're going to be back with hostilities at this
But
Middle
you don't
Eastern
think they're a
country.
rational actor. Because
Right.
you can't treat this terrorist regime as if they're rational actors.
Right, so why would you sign a ceasefire with them? Or why would you ask for a ceasefire with them?
But it's a dual track. It's military and ceasefire. It's both. And if you listen to the president earlier, he very clearly thinks that the only thing that Iran understands when he was comparing what this administration is doing versus, say, the Obama administration, they understand military strength and force. The Obama administration, the president just did this incredible explanation of how other administrations have failed. That the Obama administration thought you could bribe someone who wants to wipe the United States off the face of the earth. And it was just foolhardy and a waste of time, money, and political capital. If you listen to President Trump speak, he's like, so be it if their economy collapses, but they understand our military strength. And he also, I think it highlights something Charlie Hertz always said about President Trump. This is a president who is willing to spend political capital for what is good for the nation and the world.
Yeah.
I will shut up because he said a lot that I thought was fascinating.
I think you're 100% right, and I think that the economic pressure and the ceasefire, the sort of strategy that the president and the administration are taking here, Jonathan, is to say, while we're in this ceasefire, first of all, they didn't have the ammunition to keep going, so they might be regrouping, but they could also be internally collapsing at the same time. And all of a sudden, we might wake up one morning, I actually believe this, and see headlines that say, you know, they collapsed. Their internal strife killed them. Actually, he was asked about arming the Iranians before. Sorry, I just want to pull it up here. And his answer was, I don't want to say that, but they want to protest, but they don't have any guns. Now, we do have, he had told our reporters on the Fox News side that he had given the Kurds weapons to get to the Iranian people that actually never got to them. But that was obviously something that was on his mind. There's part of me that thinks if the strategy plays out exactly right here, all of a sudden you wake up one day with protesters that have guns that can reclaim their country.
Yeah, I mean, the unrest in Iran for months before the war started was exactly right, Jackie. It was from shopkeepers frustrated over the failing Iranian economy. So perhaps the America and Israel's efforts here could hasten, could exacerbate, could quicken perhaps some type of true regime change away from an Islamist regime that hates America, that hates the West, towards one that even embraces some semblance of capitalism and some semblance of peace.
They have this sky-high inflation. Their currency is collapsing.
Yeah.
Things are not good there, especially as their storage starts to fill up. But while we're sort of monitoring the events that are happening in the Middle East and the volatility that it's causing the markets, there's also a lot of good stuff that's happening in the market, Taylor. I was impressed by the NASDAQ on pace for another record, the semiconductor index as well. And then you had these JOLTS numbers. So there were less openings. That's a good thing. That supports a Fed that wouldn't cut. But that also tells you that this is a market that isn't trading based on interest rates.
No, I think you're right. I think we're trading for now on strong earnings that we've talked about. We got a few more that I know that we'll talk about. And this is a market that believes that central banks will look through any supply shock from gas prices and think of it as one time or temporary or not permanent. My only sort of concern, so let's start with the good news. We are getting headlines from Maersk that they just said that they want to confirm that yesterday one of their commercial vessels, the Alliance Fairfax, a U.S. flag, did make it through the strait accompanied by the U.S. Military. They want to thank the military for their professionalism and the coordination. But that's the sign that we had a commercial vehicle that was stuck from the U.S. and it made it through the strait. The bad news is I still look at oil prices. I don't think we get down to like the $60, $70 a barrel until you get like a full opening. Not like the U.S. military is escorting us opening, a full opening the way it was before. Maybe that's just sort of a glass half empty kind of read, but I don't really see prices getting back down until we sort of get to that moment. Look, earnings, good. I will say we got the ISM numbers this morning. For the second month in a row, no one reported that prices are coming down when it comes to commodities and aluminum, copper, lumber, and petroleum. But no one has said that it's coming through in their costs yet. So I don't know if we're just still waiting for Godot, waiting for the petroleum price hike to come through. If it's like tariffs where like maybe it never comes through. That's, again, just sort of that uncertainty in the background where we keep hearing that prices are going up. We haven't yet seen them. When do we start to do that? And again, do we get until like July until we start getting worried about the consumer and the buildup and the backlog of high prices when that starts to take a toll on the average person?
Can I just add something about oil before we get to you? What are you going to talk about? Are you going to talk about oil?
I have so many things to talk about.
Okay.
I need like 10 minutes.
One thing that certainly markets are waiting for is not just oil and cargo going out of the Persian Gulf. It is also ships going in to pick up product. That it needs to be two-way traffic for the production to restart in the region, for the flows to resume, for oil prices to truly start to ease. Iraq is trying to bring in the buyers, trying to get tankers sent into the Persian Gulf to pick up cargo with price discounts of like a discount of $30 a barrel. That's according to Bloomberg. But there were other things going on with oil. There have been attacks by Ukraine on facilities in Russia, drone attacks on a refinery a few days ago. There was a drone attack by Ukraine on an oil export facility at Primorsk on the Baltic. That also was juicing oil prices, and most people kind of ignored the news, but that was behind the scenes, and it wasn't just about Iran.
My turn. I am just, look, I am counting ships at this point. It's like when I go to bed and I count sheep. I'm getting up in the morning. All I want to do is count ships. I'm looking for Lauren Simonetti's emails every day because I think it just comes down to that. And I could not agree with Dagan more on it's not just the ships out. It's got to be the ships in. I don't think it has to go back to pre-war levels, by the way. I don't think it has to go back to 120 or whatever, because we've got pipelines sending more oil out away from the Strait of Hormuz. I think the UAE is going to double down on that. They are free from OPEC, and they want to pump oil. The Venezuela story has been a lot better than anybody thought. So I don't think we have to get back to 100%
I
in the
just
Strait.
mean like open.
But I agree. And that's what Secretary of War Hegseth said. Like, we want free transit through the Strait, obviously, except for Iran. That's what they're going for. This is the moment of truth. Like, we have said it. They've said it. The Secretary of War has said that's what we're doing. That's our mission. So we either execute on that mission or we don't. But if we do, then I think that things get better really quickly. And I think Iran is very nervous that we can do this, which is why they're lashing out, because this is their leverage point, and they can feel it slipping away if we're going to put the full force of the U.S. military to work there.
The more ships going in and out, the more you're going to get oil to go down, at least under 100, hopefully. My view is until it's done, we won't see the 60s. But, you know, I go back to what I said before. It could be done sooner rather than later. I really think this regime is under pressure. And I think that the president taking his time to wait is because, obviously, they have better intelligence than we do with respect to the detail that they know. And I just have to imagine that they know something is brewing internally.
And, Jackie, I just quickly say I'm going to have to give credit to President Trump and his deregulatory efforts in terms of oil and natural gas here at home. That is no question help put a cap on gas, and oil prices help keep them down, knowing that we have more of a fossil-friendly regulation and regulatory environment in Washington, D.C.
President Trump said that in the back and forth of Q&A. He said, I looked at oil prices today, and I'm surprised that they're not higher, given the fact we're in the middle of this conflict. And Diamondback Energy, this is one of the top shale companies in the U.S., announced within the last 24 hours that it is bringing incremental barrels to the market immediately. So U.S. shale, it can't fully offset the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, but it doggone well will step up when prices are at this level.
Absolutely.